Hey all you cats and chicks out there, welcome back to Control Players Unite. I am your host, Dr. Red. Today we are presenting on the underlying philosophy of rogue decks. First we're going to define our terms, and then we're going to talk about the two major principles that make a rogue deck what it is: exceptional synergy and equality of gameplay. We're then going to give an example of Rotom VSTAR, and then conclude. Ladies and gentlemen, please note how we're using the word philosophy. First, there is the classic definition based on the Greek words philia, which means friendship love, and sophia, which means wisdom. Now, as you know, sometimes women are called Sophia. So, married gentlemen, your wives are always right because wisdom is feminine. There you have it. Second, we have the summation of one's beliefs and practices. Stoicism, for example, has an entire belief system around it. So if you live as a Stoic, you have a Stoic way of life. Then we have our third usage of philosophy, the foundation of how something works. And this is the way we are using philosophy in this presentation. What is the conceptual foundation of a rogue deck? With that being said, all rogue decks, insofar as they are rogue, share something in common. What is it? Well, first let's review our vocabulary. These definitions are the same as those used in the Control Players Unite video, Unofficial Pokemon TCG Vocabulary. If you want to see more, please check that video out. First, we have budget decks. It's a deck that costs below a certain amount of money, but there is no official number. It's the idea that a deck is for players who don't have much money. Next, we have a meme deck. It's a deck that's played strictly for enjoyment that has no reasonable chance of performing well at a tournament. Then we have an all-encompassing term called off-meta, which refers to either budget or meme, but it also refers to rogue. It's a deck that probably does not have a chance to perform well at a tournament, but does have answers to at least some of the major archetypes, and so it could perform well. It has the potential to perform well. And we're interested to understand why it could perform well. And the first principle is exceptional synergy, or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The cards are usually underpowered in some way, so they need to synergize in a way that can deal with anything. And I say usually, ladies and gentlemen, because it might be that the cards are not actually underpowered, they just need to be figured out. They need to be understood how to use them in the best way possible. Now you say, but Dr. Red, all decks need to be able to deal with anything in some fashion if they want to compete. You are correct. Allow me to explain what I mean. A deck like Dragapult EX or Charizard EX doesn't need much to get going. You just evolve, energize, and attack. That's one of the reasons why they're so popular. And because they're so powerful, you can just set them up and go against anything you want. But like some regular control style decks, rogue decks need to anticipate more things because they require an extra step to get set up and take prizes, or whatever it is you're doing. Hence why such decks and archetypes are oft ignored. This extra step is what we mean by the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, because you need a higher than average flow or consistency to get the job done. The second principle is equality of gameplay. Dr. Red, isn't this the same thing as synergy, just phrased differently? No. Remember, it's the philosophy of rogue decks that we're dealing with here. I'll explain. Meta archetypes do not suffer from imposter syndrome. They know what they are and how they function. They know they can compete with each other, hence why they are played often. Rogue decks, however, are like the new kid at school. They need to test the waters before they pursue any relationships, and sometimes the other students need to invite them into their circles. Just as the new kid can say, I'm a human being too, please include me, the rogue deck has this kind of attitude that says, don't think that because I'm different I'm bad. I can compete too, I just need a chance. And this is the reason why equality of gameplay is the second feature of rogue decks: confidence. For a rogue deck to become meta, or have the potential of becoming meta, it needs to be played. Mathematically speaking, it might be true that a so-called rogue deck actually is meta because it's capable of high-level competition, but the players don't see it. They haven't figured it out. For the rogue deck to assert itself into the meta, it must, so to speak, make a statement about its viability. And that statement is, my gameplay is equal to yours. Whatever you can do, I can do just as well or better because I have the confidence to be considered your equal. Players just need to play me. So, rogue decks work by synergizing exceptionally well so as to deal with anything, and by having the confidence to deal with the board state as it sees fit. One could think of these as the material and spiritual components of rogue decks. Rogue decks are characterized as underpowered or unsolved, with the potential to do well in competitive play by responding to meta archetypes, and unlovable or needing to be proven in order to be worthy of the meta. Once again, the material and the spiritual components. Thus, in addition to the definition provided, the underlying philosophy of rogue decks is worthiness is just a victory away. In other words, you're excluding me because I haven't won anything, but I reasonably could. For example, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm aware there's more than one. I'm just using one card to get the point across. Rotom VSTAR. It has 250 HP, 1 attack, Scrap Pulse, 2 Lightning Energy, 80 plus. Put any number of Pokemon tool cards from your discard pile in the Lost Zone. This attack does 40 more damage for each card you put in the Lost Zone in this way. It also has the VSTAR Power Conversion Star. During your turn, you may use this ability, discard any number of cards from your hand, and then draw that many cards. Now look at the effect of its attack. It does 40 more damage for each tool card you put into the Lost Zone. That's the extra step rogue decks often incorporate as mentioned under Exceptional Synergy. But look at its output. With 6 tools in the discard pile to put into the Lost Zone, you're one-shotting Dragapult EX, and with 7 tools, you're one-shotting Charizard. Now, its health is undesirable, so you have Hero's Cape offering an additional 100 HP for nothing at all, and if this Pokemon is defeated, the tool just goes in the discard pile as you would want anyway. And even then, the prize trade can be such that it might not matter whether you're taking big KOs or not, as you'll have another energized Pokemon on the bench, although you do want to take big KOs to win. Now you might say to me, Dr. Red, that isn't feasible. It's too much to set up consistently. You'd have to do it multiple times over for it to be rogue rather than a coincidence. You even said yourself that potentiality is part of being rogue. You are correct to say such a thing, but I disagree. On the basis that I did just that for several days on the ranked ladder with this deck in preparation for this video, I faced numerous meta archetypes and defeated them all with this deck. Now, I'm not saying that this means Rotom VSTAR is going to win a major tournament or get a high placement, although it has done that in Japan in various local tournaments. The point is that it fulfills all of the requirements for a rogue deck that we previously laid out. And so let's do a final check on its eligibility for rogue status. It has synergy with other cards in its build, such as Miraidon EX, the Snack Seek Morpeko, the Free Retreat Zeraora, Explorer's Guidance, and Professor's Research. It has confidence to deal with the board state in the form of big attackers like those mentioned because it can take big KOs. It is understood to be underpowered, most likely due to its lower health and its needing tool cards in the discard pile. And it does need to prove itself in a competitive environment. Whether one likes it or not is irrelevant. It is rogue. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. What did I miss? Where am I wrong? Please leave a comment, take care of yourselves, and may God hold you in the palm of his hand.